Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. It's springtime. It's heading toward later in the year, and people are going to be planning trips into the wilderness and camping and hiking and stuff like that in the next few months coming up here. And I wanted to do a video on navigation and some of the problems that I've ran into with navigation over the years, some of my experiences, and some of the solutions that I use to prevent problems. Basically, this isn't going to be, I'm going to show you how to use your compass and map type video. This is going to be more sort of the way I plan trips and sort of how I use my maps and gear and stuff. Now, I actually have some of my compasses here. I just thought I'd show them to you real quick. Got a couple map compasses in there and a couple military compasses. Those are my main compasses that I use for hiking and having in the vehicle and stuff like that. I've got a lot of maps like this that show different features and roads and stuff like that. And maps are an important part of navigation. And if anybody gets anything out of this specific video here, this point that I'm going to mention right now is what I want people to remember. Maps can sometimes be wrong. Now, doesn't happen very often, but a map can be wrong. The landscape, the environment, things can change, and things can change from that map. And there's been different instances over the years where I had a map and something on that map was incorrect, whether it be a road or a road name, or there was a flood in an area and a road got washed out. That road no longer existed. And one real good example of that is many years ago we were hunting in a particular area, and this area had some hills that had several 100 feet of elevation change and different hills on the map. And we got to a specific spot, and where there was supposed to be a hill, and when we got there, the top of the hill was gone because a construction company basically went in there and they blasted off the top of that hill, and they basically turned the top of that hill into gravel so they could build roads back into the other woods and stuff that was there for different stuff that they were doing back in there. So literally the map showed this particular elevation change and this particular hill, and that hill was no longer there. It was just gone. And that's I think probably the easiest way to explain and to illustrate that sometimes maps can be incorrect. The environment, the landscape changes. Now, there's three things that I like to do before I plan a trip into any wilderness area. The first thing I like to do is consult the map, have a decent map, and consult that. And the next thing that I like to do, if available or if possible, I like to look at the area on I like to look at an aerial photograph or um, some type of aerial picture of the area that I'm going into. And with Google Earth nowadays, that's really simple. You can do it with an app on the phone. You can jump on the computer, you can look on Google Earth, and you can look at the area that you want to go into. And the third thing that I like to do is I like to get local information about where I'm going and the conditions in that particular area. And I got a story that I'm going to tell you guys for each of these. The first one is the aerial photograph. Now, a year ago, I wanted to go on a little hike with Uncle Bumble to one of the many sandbar islands that are around in Michigan in the lakes. There's sandbars, trees grow on them, they become little islands. And when the lake freezes, you can walk across the lake and go and explore these places. I wanted to explore one of these sandbar islands. And I was going through, I was checking my maps, I was looking at my aerial photographs, and I noticed something when I looked at that Google Earth image of that particular area. There were Phragmites, which is an invasive species that gets quite tall, 12, sometimes higher, feet tall, that had grown all the way around this particular sandbar island that I wanted to go to. which would have made our trek out there. When we got out there, we wouldn't have been able to get through that. We would have had to maybe walk for miles around to get through that. And because I looked at that aerial image ahead of time, I was able to realize that that area was impassable, and we probably wouldn't have made, we would have walked out there on the ice, gotten cold for nothing, basically. We wouldn't have been able to get to our objective. So that's why I like to look at an aerial image of the area. Like I said, Google Earth or however you want to look it up. I like to look at an aerial image of the area that we are going into ahead of time. Um, Maps and local information. There was another particular time when we were up in the UP, and we wanted to go to Mount Arvon. Mount Arvon is the highest point in Michigan. It's like 1,900 feet, and we wanted to go back in there. So I consulted my map. I got my route planned out where I wanted to go, looked at my aerial image of where we were going. Everything looked fine and dandy. And I said, you know what, I'm going to get a little extra information. Going to stop at one of the bait shops, and I'm going to go in there and ask one of the guys, hey, what's the best way to get up to Mount Arvon, and can I take this route here that I want to go on? And I went in there and I asked that question, and the first thing the guy said is you can't get through that particular area. There's some problems with the road up there. That's all closed off right now. If you want to get to Mount Arvon, you got to go to take this completely other route. We wanted to go in from the west. That particular route was shut right down. We actually had to go in from the southeast, a completely different way. And we actually changed our whole trip around, and we did get up to Mount Arvon, and we did actually see that. But if we would have went in that original way that I wanted to go by just looking at the map and just looking at the aerial photograph and didn't have any information from the locals on the ground, we would have ran into problems. We wouldn't have been able to complete our trip. And another instance is I had a particular river and waterfall area that I wanted to take the family down into and some friends. And I did everything that I told you guys that I do. I went and looked at the map. I got a really decent set of directions. I had a very good map of the area, and looked at my aerial image, got my image off of Google Earth. Everything looked good, showed me where the kind of the gorge and the waterfall and stuff was. And we stopped at a place and asked them. They said, yep, you just go down this particular road here. You go down a certain period of or a certain distance. You make your turns, you go down a little further, make another turn or two, and you're going to be right there, right? We did that. Everything looked good. We headed down in there. We got down in there, and there was a active logging operation in there. And the road that we went in on and the trail that we turned onto, spider-webbed, looked exactly like a spider web. There was trails going off trails, and there was loops and turnarounds, and there was equipment parked all over. We got down in there, and it was a maze. Tried for an hour or two to try to find, got to kind of where the river was, but wasn't sure exactly of our orientation where we were at. Didn't really have a GPS, and a GPS wouldn't have done us any good down in there anyway because of the canopy over the trees and stuff. In that particular area that we were at, a GPS really wouldn't have worked. So there we were. So what I ended up doing is I called it. I said, you know what? This isn't worth getting turned around, lost in here, and we'll come back and we'll attack this at another point in time when there isn't all this labyrinth that we have to find our way through. And again, it was one of those things. Even though we had done everything right in preparation, something came up where I didn't feel comfortable taking everybody down there. So I said, you know what? I seen a bar back 10 miles. Let's just jump in the vehicle, head back, grab a burger and a beer and just call it a day. And that's what we ended up doing, and everything was fine and dandy. And that place will be there again for us to go back and try to find and explore at some other point in time. And nobody was the worse for wear. So sometimes, even if sometimes you just got to call it. There's no sense in risking life, limb, a night in the woods, getting lost, whatever, for recreation. It's best to just call it and come back at another time. And a lot of the navigation I do, is going to be a hybrid. It isn't just here's my map, here's my compass, and go off into the wilderness. A lot of navigation for recreation purposes is going to have, you're going to have to get back to the trailhead or the park or wherever. So you're going to navigate on a road map first. And a lot of places like parks and state parks and wilderness areas and national forests and that kind of stuff, they're going to have some kind of map that you can either download off of the internet, or they're going to have some map that they can give you at a ranger station, something that's going to look something like this. You're going to get something like this. So you're going to be using a combination of maps, maybe topo maps, sets of directions that people gave you. And that's why you should always have a pen and paper or a little notebook or something in your vehicle when you're going out and exploring and going to these areas, because you might get a set of directions from somebody. So you can write those directions down specifically. And I've been given directions by people that were like, you go 4/10 of a mile down this particular trail and then you veer right on this, go down 2.3 miles, and at 2.3 miles you're going to take the left fork in the road, and and the directions are going to be like that. So you want to have something where you can write those directions down from your local people. Now this particular little map right here, this is the river road between M65 and Oscoda, Michigan, which is a fairly well-traveled scenic and hiking route. So you might have a map like this. You might not have a topographical map or something like that, where you're going to need the compass and pace speeds and all that other stuff. You might just need the compass to give you your general cardinal directions. So there's a lot of aspects of navigation that you don't hear on YouTube channels, where people are just talking about, on YouTube channels are talking about the topo map and the compass. But there's a lot of areas where you're going to use a road map. You might use a local map from a park or a wilderness area, and you might be using directions from locals. So you need to have a way to have that written down, and you need to have somebody. I always like having at least another person with me when I'm getting the directions too, because that way we can basically kind of compare mental notes, make sure that we got our directions down straight. And because we try to do these type of recreational trips, we like to do them where they're fun and they're safe and there's no problems afterwards. So I go through everything that I possibly can do to make sure that all our information is correct, so we have a good time and a great story and a great adventure out in the wilderness without turning it into a survival situation. But anyway, just wanted to share those navigation tips here with you guys, and kind of how I plan trips, so somebody can maybe use these ideas to help themselves out if they plan a trip out into the woods or wilderness this summer. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. I appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys got a little information, a little entertainment out of this video here, just sharing some ideas that might help you out. You guys take care.